Remember that client project? Um, the one where we thought, hey, let's use that JavaScript framework from, was it 2015?
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Oh, yeah, I think we've all been there.
Let's just say it turned into a bit of a coding archaeological dig. Full stack development sometimes feels like sprinting on a constantly accelerating treadmill.
Totally. Always racing to catch up.
So to help you stay ahead of the game, we're diving into an article that breaks down 7 hot technologies, the ones that are really reshaping the landscape. No buzzwords, we promise. Just the good stuff to help you level up your dev game.
Sounds good to me.
This recent article highlights 7 key technologies that are really changing the game in full stack development. You've shared this with us, so we know you're interested in what it has to say, but we also want to give you some additional insights. Before we jump in, I think it's safe to assume you're already familiar with the headaches of managing monolithic front ends. Those massive code bases that can be a nightmare to update or scale.
Right. Trying to make even a small change can feel like you're wading through, well, a monolith.
Exactly. That's where our first game changer comes in micro front ends.
Okay, so instead of one giant front end for a web app.
Instead of one giant front end for a web app, you break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces.
I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
What's fascinating here is that each piece can be developed, tested, and even updated completely independently. It's like having different teams owning specific parts of your application without stepping on each other's toes.
So like if you have a team working on a music player and another on personalized playlists.
So if you're Spotify, for example, one team could be laser-focused on that awesome music player, while another team is busy curating personalized playlists, all without breaking the user experience.
That makes a lot of sense, avoiding those conflicting updates for sure.
And the beauty of this approach is that companies can push out updates much faster. No more waiting for a massive release cycle, just continuous innovation, which is crucial in today's fast-paced digital world.
Absolutely. Speed is key these days.
And it's not just theory. Spotify, Zalando, and IKEA have all embraced micro front ends to accelerate their development cycles and improve their time to market.
It's always good to see real-world examples. Those are some big names.
Speaking of streamlining processes, let's talk about serverless computing. It might sound like we're entering a world without servers, but I assure you they still exist.
Okay, so not literally serverless then.
The key here is abstraction. Serverless computing takes the burden of server management off your plate.
Like outsourcing the headache.
Exactly. It's almost like the shift from owning a car to using ride-sharing services. You only pay for what you use and avoid the hassle of maintenance and upkeep.
I like that analogy.
That's exactly what makes it a game changer, especially for startups and smaller companies. They can scale their resources up or down on demand without investing heavily in upfront infrastructure. It's all about efficiency and agility.
Makes sense, especially in those early stages.
This move towards serverless actually points to a larger trend in the development world. The desire to focus on crafting exceptional products without getting bogged down by infrastructure concerns. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Right, because ultimately it's about what you deliver.
Now, when it comes to serverless platforms, names like AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Functions, and Azure Functions are leading the charge. They provide the tools and infrastructure you need to build and deploy serverless applications with ease.
So those are some good jumping-off points for our listeners who want to learn more.
From a world with fewer servers, let's jump into a world of, well, acronyms.
Okay, going from serverless to...
I'll be honest, when I first heard the term Jamstack, I thought it was some new energy drink for developers.
You and me both.
But it turns out it's something way cooler.
All right, I'm ready to learn something. Lay it on me.
It stands for JavaScript, APIs, and markup. And it's shaking up the way we think about building websites.
So tell me more about why this Jamstack is so revolutionary.
What's really interesting about Jamstack is that it prioritizes speed and security right from the get-go.
Those are definitely two things you always want to prioritize.
And it achieves this by taking a different approach to web architecture.
Different how?
Instead of relying on a bulky backend to handle everything, Jamstack embraces a decoupled approach with pre-built static HTML files served directly to users.
Interesting. Going back to the static...
This might sound counterintuitive in our dynamic web world, but think about it. Those static files load incredibly fast, especially when delivered through content delivery networks.
True, less moving parts, less to slow things down.
We're talking about lightning-fast page loads, which is a win for users and search engines alike.
Yeah, no one likes a slow website.
This shift towards static site generators like Next.js, Gatsby, and Nux.js is gaining serious momentum in the Jamstack world.
I've heard of those, but how do they fit in?
They empower developers to build beautiful, performant front ends while still leveraging APIs for dynamic content when needed.
Best of both worlds, then.
Plus, with less server-side code exposed, static sites offer a smaller attack surface, making them inherently more secure. It's a win-win for both developers and users.
Definitely a win-win. I'm seeing why you're so excited about Jamstack.
Okay, so we've talked about building front ends efficiently and simplifying our back-end architecture. Now let's address a common pain point for developers dealing with APIs that either flood you with unnecessary data or leave you wanting more.
Ugh, I've been there way too many times. Such a pain.
That's where GraphQL swoops in to save the day.
GraphQL to the rescue. All right, tell me more.
Have you ever ordered takeout only to receive a mountain of food you didn't want while the one dish you craved was missing?
The worst. Who needs that much unwanted food?
That's what using REST APIs can feel like sometimes.
Okay, I'm starting to see the analogy here.
GraphQL offers a more elegant solution. It acts like a personal shopper for your data, allowing you to specify exactly what you need from an API, no more, no less.
That's pretty cool, so it just gives you exactly what you need.
Let's say you're building an e-commerce app and you need to fetch data about a user, their order history, and the shipping status of a specific product. With the traditional REST API, you might end up making multiple requests, piecing together the information like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Always piecing things together.
But with GraphQL, you can request all that information in a single query, receiving a neat, customized response that perfectly matches your needs. It's like ordering a tailor-made suit for your data.
I like that. A tailor-made suit for your data. Very nice.
This level of efficiency and precision is why companies like GitHub, Shopify, and Twitter have embraced GraphQL, especially as their applications become more complex and data-intensive.
Yeah, when you have a ton of data, you need a better way to manage it.
From streamlining data fetching, let's move on to something that's truly groundbreaking, WebAssembly.
WebAssembly, I've heard whispers, but haven't really wrapped my head around it.
This is where things get really interesting for developers looking to push the boundaries of what's possible in a web browser.
Okay, I'm always down to push some boundaries.
For years, JavaScript has been the reigning language of the web.
Right, always JavaScript.
But WebAssembly, or WASM for short, is changing the game by allowing code written in other languages like C++, Rust, and Go to run in the browser at near-native speed.
Hold on, other languages in the browser? Didn't think that was possible.
It's like giving your browser a shot of adrenaline. Imagine running computationally intensive applications, complex games, video editing software, even machine learning algorithms, all within a web browser, without relying on clunky plugins or downloads.
Wow, that's next level stuff. So WebAssembly is what makes all of that possible.
That's the promise of WebAssembly. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for web developers.
Yeah, it sounds like we're entering uncharted territory here.
We're talking about creating richer, more immersive experiences that were previously limited to desktop environments.
It's like the web browser just leveled up, evolving from a simple document viewer into a powerful application platform.
And the best part is that users won't even notice the technology behind these seamless experiences.
They'll just be happy that everything's lightning fast.
They'll just enjoy blazing fast performance and responsive interactions, all thanks to WebAssembly working its magic behind the scenes.
I love it when technology just works.
Now let's talk about how data travels in this increasingly connected world.
Okay, data on the move?
We're all familiar with cloud computing, sending our data to massive data centers for processing.
Right, the cloud, it's where we store everything these days.
But as we demand faster, more responsive experiences, especially on mobile devices, a new approach is emerging: edge computing.
Edge computing, okay, fill me in.
Imagine you're streaming your favorite show, and every time there's a peak in network traffic, your video buffers.
Ugh, the buffering, the bane of my existence.
That's where edge computing comes in, aiming to eliminate those frustrating lags and delays.
Sign me up, less buffering is always a good thing.
Instead of sending all that data back and forth to a central server, edge computing brings a processing power closer to the user, often to servers located in local data centers or even at the network's edge. Think specialized devices directly connected to cell towers.
So it's like having a data center right in your neighborhood?
It's like having a network of mini data centers strategically positioned around the globe, ready to deliver content and process data with lightning-fast speeds.
That's pretty impressive.
For developers, this means we can build applications that respond in real time, regardless of the user's location or network conditions.
So no matter where you are in the world, you're getting the best possible performance.
Think about multiplayer games with smooth, lag-free gameplay, or self-driving cars that can react instantly to changing road conditions.
Those are some pretty compelling examples.
All thanks to the power of edge computing.
Wow, edge computing really does sound like the future.
And the tools are already here to make this happen. AWS CloudFront, Cloudflare Workers, and Nullify Edge Functions are just a few examples of platforms that empower developers to deploy and manage applications at the network's edge.
So those are some tools that our listeners can check out.
Speaking of managing applications, let's talk about the last but certainly not least game changer on our list: containerization and Kubernetes.
All right, bring on the containers.
Now, I know these terms might sound a bit intimidating, but bear with me.
I'm ready.
Think of it like this. Remember those meticulously organized kitchens you see on those home organization shows?
Oh yeah, where everything has its place.
Everything has its place, labeled, and perfectly arranged.
So satisfying.
That's the essence of containerization. But instead of spices and pantry staples, we're talking about your application code and all its dependencies neatly packaged into standardized units called containers.
Okay, so my code is all nice and organized, but what about Kubernetes? Where does that fit in?
These containers act like self-contained environments, ensuring that your application runs smoothly and consistently, regardless of where it's deployed.
Makes sense, keeping everything consistent.
It's like shipping your code in a secure, tamper-proof package, guaranteeing it arrives at its destination intact and ready to run.
I like that analogy. A lot less messy than shipping a package full of pantry staples.
And Kubernetes is like the master conductor, orchestrating these containers across a cluster of servers.
Keeping everything in sync.
It handles the deployment, scaling, and management of your applications, making sure everything runs like a well-oiled machine.
So Kubernetes is like the maestro of our container orchestra.
Think about companies like Google, Netflix, or Airbnb handling millions of users and massive amounts of data.
Those are some heavy hitters when it comes to data.
They rely heavily on Kubernetes to manage their complex infrastructure, ensuring their applications are always available and performing at their best.
So it's battle-tested and ready for anything.
What's truly fascinating here is how these technologies, while powerful in their own right, are also converging to create even more exciting possibilities.
It's all about exciting possibilities.
Imagine micro front ends powered by serverless functions, all running smoothly within containers, orchestrated by Kubernetes, and deployed seamlessly at the edge for unparalleled performance and reach.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we've only scratched the surface of what these technologies can do.
It's amazing to think about where things are headed.
What's important is that you stay curious, keep experimenting, and never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. The learning never stops.
The future of the web is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to shape it with innovative ideas and a passion for pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely. So let's get out there and build the future.
So keep exploring these exciting technologies, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one building the next big thing that revolutionizes the web.